Yes, I have apologies from Mr Sanderson and Mr Thompson.
Interest that would prevent you from participating in discussion or a decision, you should seek the advice of the monitoring officer or the council's legal officers. So can we confirm the meeting of 26th April, please?
Can you move to the microphones, everybody?
I'm happy to move.
I'm happy to second.
So we'll now move to the sole item on the agenda, which is the demolition of Linkshouse mid-Yell. So I want to briefly run through the procedure this morning. The planning officer will give details of the application. Then members of the committee may ask questions on the report. The objectors and or their agents will then be asked to present their case in support of their written submission to the committee and will speak for a maximum of 5 minutes. Members of the committee may ask questions of objector and or their agents on submissions made. The applicant and or their agents will then be asked to present their case in support of their application to the committee and will speak for a maximum of 5 minutes. Members of the committee may then ask questions of the applicant and or their agents. Please present your points within the agreed time limits, which are to ensure all parties involved are given an opportunity to present their case. All representations received in relation to the applications are summarised in the committee report. No new issues or new information can be introduced during the planning hearing if they have not been previously stated. Following the hearing of the applicant, members of the committee will be given the opportunity to ask questions, seek clarification from council officers on any planning or legal issues. The committee will then proceed to debate and decision. I will now ask the planning officer to present the report.
Thank you, Chair. This is an application for listed building consent for the demolition of Linkshouse mid-Yell. This application has been referred to the Planning Committee for decision as refusal of listed building consent is recommended. Historic Environment Scotland have formally objected to the proposal. This means that should the Council, as planning authority, be minded to approve the application and grant consent, with or without conditions, the decision would need to be notified to Scottish ministers before a notice to this effect could be issued. I will now move on to some slides. This slide shows an aerial photograph of the site above and the location plan with the site outlined in red below. This slide shows a series of photographs of the building from 1993 through to the present. Moving on now to the key issues. The application site is located within Mid-Yell. Linkshouse dates from 1770, with the ground floor most likely used for storage and trading. As set out in the consultation response from Historic Environment Scotland, it is an important early building, typical of Shetland. Its setting and its visual and functional relationship with the pier speak to its maritime trading function. It makes a positive contribution to the architectural and historic resource of Yell and Shetland more generally. Linkshouse was listed in 1997, at which point it was roofless, with windows and doors boarded up following a fire some years previously. Stabilisation works were carried out following the fire, partly funded by Shetland Islands Council. The Planning Service are not aware of any subsequent approaches, either formally or informally, regarding any further proposals to repair or to restore the building. National Planning Framework 4, Policy 7, states that development proposals for the demolition of listed buildings will not be supported unless it has been demonstrated that there are exceptional circumstances and that all reasonable efforts have been made to retain, reuse and/or adapt the listed building. It sets out 4 tests to be considered when assessing applications. The first consideration is whether the building is no longer of special interest. Historic Environment Scotland are responsible for decisions on whether buildings should be added to or removed from the list of buildings of special architectural or historic interest. In their consultation response, they have stated that they are of the view that the building remains of special interest. On that basis, it is considered that the first requirement of NPF 4 Policy 7 has not been satisfied. The second consideration is whether the building is capable of physical repair and reuse as verified through a detailed structural condition survey. It is accepted that the building is in a poor state of repair. However, the structural report submitted does not demonstrate that alternative options to stabilise the building in the short term, in preparation for a more comprehensive scheme of repair, would not be possible. These options could include monitoring movement, localised propping and consolidation in order to address the applicant's safety concerns. The structural report also states that it may be possible to rebuild and retain substantial parts of the building. On that basis, it is considered that the requirement to demonstrate that the building is incapable of physical repair and reuse has not been satisfied. The third consideration is whether it has been demonstrated that the building is beyond economic repair. No evidence has been provided to demonstrate that the building has been marketed to potential restoring purchasers. In the absence of such evidence, it is considered that it has not been demonstrated that the building is beyond economic repair. The final consideration is whether it has been demonstrated that the demolition is essential to delivering significant benefits to economic growth or the wider community. No evidence has been provided to demonstrate this. The information submitted with the application does not clearly demonstrate that every effort has been made to retain the listed building. The structural report does not support complete demolition as the only option, and the building has not been marketed. The proposal would therefore be contrary to Shetland Local Development Plan policies HE1 and HE2. In conclusion, it is considered that insufficient justification has been provided to support the complete demolition of the listed building. The proposed development is therefore considered to be contrary to both National Planning Framework 4 and the Shetland Local Development Plan. On that basis, it is recommended that the development proposed is refused. Thank you, Chair.
Members, have you any questions of Mrs Potter? Councillor Houston.
Hello, thank you. I maybe missed it, but did the Community Council make any comments?
They commented in support of the application. Yes.
Can I ask, please, when you speak about economic, how
how much help would the applicant get from, say, the council or HES to do something like this? Because I would suggest that the sort of repairs, by the look of the bulging walls, would mean that you're going to have to practically demolish it and then rebuild it. So from a planning point of view, would they be allowed to rebuild it in a different manner, using bricks or something, or would it have to be rebuilt in exactly the same way that it is at the moment to keep its character? Because that's a highly specialised thing, which certainly would be more expensive than bricks. So, so if they were going to keep Linkshouse, would it be a case that they would be asked to take it down and then rebuild it using the same materials and methods?
That's something that would have to be considered as part of further discussions. The structural report that's been submitted suggests that it wouldn't be necessary to completely take down and rebuild the structure. So potentially there would be options such as use of alternative materials for the sections that did need to be rebuilt. It's certainly not the case that there's a blanket assumption that a building like this would have to be reconstructed exactly as it was originally. There are all sorts of good practice and philosophical discussions which I won't bore you with this morning, but it's very much not a given that it has to be exactly like for like.
At least it's no case of boring us with it. It's just like, I have no idea what listed building consent is something. I mean, is it a very low grade listing? Is it a very high listing? How, and what does the listing mean? Does it mean that, because some listings means that you can basically, as long as it looks the same, you can do almost anything to it. And other listings means that you're not allowed to hardly touch a brick. So can you tell me what the difference is, please?
It's very much on a building by building basis. On a building like this, where it's a fairly simple stone construction, most of the windows have been lost, the doors have been lost, the roof is, all the internal details have been lost. I think there would definitely be potential for a fairly flexible approach in terms of restoring the building. And it's really about understanding what the significance of that building is. And I would say in this case, it's the contribution that it makes to that grouping at the pier and its historical appearance, which externally, really, and that would be fairly straightforward to replicate.
Okay, thanks.
Any further questions, members? Mrs. Houston?
Yeah. Historic Scotland seem to think that this building is was safe, and have they been approached about taking on ownership of it?
Certainly not by us, but that wouldn't be within our remit. I know more generally they are generally reluctant to take on additional properties given the challenges of maintaining the properties that are currently in state care.
Thank you. What can we get information about what was the original reason in 1997 that it became listed, and why did the council spend money in repairs, and what was done at that time?
The original listing decision is available online, and we have the information included within the consultation response from Historic Environment Scotland on this application, which sets out their reasoning for coming to the view that it retains its special interest. In terms of the grant funding, we would need to look through our files to see if any information's been retained. It will be out with any retention period required under the terms of a grant scheme. As it was in the 1990s, so we can certainly look, but I'm not aware of anything.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr Wenger. Any further questions, members?
Thanks very much, Chair. My question is about the risk and safety. I suppose that if we were to refuse this application, then if the building was to collapse and any member of the community was to be injured, who then becomes responsible and liable for that? Because I think we might find ourselves in this difficult position.
In terms of planning, that's not really a question that I can answer. There are provisions within building standards legislation to deal with imminently dangerous buildings. There are provisions within listed building legislation which allow for urgent works to be carried out without listed building consent should there be an immediate danger to public health and safety. So there are avenues available should there be an immediate risk to public health and safety. However, the structural report submitted with this application, as I've said in my presentation, and the reports of handling does not support that view.
Okay, Mr Smith?
Not sure. I'm just satisfied with that, and I'll leave it at the moment. Might come back and debate. Thank you.
Any further questions, members? Thank you very much. Are there any objectors present? In that case, can I invite the applicant or their agent to present their case?
Hello.
Please proceed, Mr Douglas.
My name's Stuart Douglas. My business is the SSD Group. I'm a chartered construction professional, and the applicant, Lindsay Lawrenson, has asked me to assist him with the matter in hand here. So I think to start with, I'm sure we can all agree that it's a sad day when a building of historic importance needs to be demolished. However, the reality of the situation is that the building has come to the end of its life, it's in a dangerous condition and requires to be demolished. Linkhouse is potentially a danger to persons in or about the building, to the public generally, and to adjacent buildings and places. This has been scientifically proven by competent chartered professional experts, and I would suggest we're living on borrowed time here. Building owners are responsible for preventing their buildings falling into a dangerous condition, and the local authority has a duty to protect the public when, for whatever reason, and I think that this is important, for whatever reason, a building owner has failed in their duty to fulfil this responsibility. The building owner wants to fill his duty by demolishing the building and removing the danger completely. Failure to grant approval today will prevent the building owner from just discharging their duty and will in turn place the duty on the local authority to act. We would therefore ask, in the interests of public safety, permission is granted to allow the building to be demolished without further delay. Public safety must take precedence. And I believe, Lindsay, you were...
Thank you, Mr Douglas. Mr Lawrenson, do you want to say a few words?
Yes, so initially like the Yell Community Council flagged up the serious concerns about the building, so and that was passed on to me and also onto building standards. So initially what we decided to do was to get the building surveyed, because it was a great concern that it was the public safety risk that was posed by the building. So if we can see some of the other photos, just to help maybe explain some of the points. Okay, sorry. Yeah. So
Is it this one? All right.
Oh yeah. So the first slide is showing you like is a timeline of events since the early stages it was recorded, and this is from from Buildings at Risk, from the website. It's publicly available from information from Historic Scotland. And initially the building went on fire. To give some context to the time period, that was in Margaret Thatcher was in power then, so it's quite a long time ago. There was some kind of remedial works because the condition of the house, and contrary to what seems to be being presented, the house has on numerous occasions, which is recorded here, been offered to various groups, and the price sought couldn't be any more favourable. It wasn't like a figure that might have been seen as high. The value it was sought for the property was free. So that's been made a few times, over the years. The community council verified in this too, and that there were quite a few other offers made to the community. At the time it was made, and I suppose the landscape in Shetland, it was reasonable to get constructors and that kind of thing maybe to do this type of work, but in the last year or two, it's seriously difficult to get anything done, even normal work, let alone work of this scope. But so kind of recently then, the concerns like flagged up by the community, and also that we members of the Yell Development Committee is highlighting that there is serious change to the shape of the building, and it's bulging out terribly now, and the proximity to the public road and all other users is creating a great concern to them. So I'll just show you this photo here. It shows like the situation of the building. The pier road that passes before the building serves as access to somewhere in the region of 12 houses. Some of the houses is holiday lets. So there are 2 holiday let properties. In the winter time, the sea goes over the road, but there's no pavement to afford any protection to the members of the public. Going past the front of the house, a gate to the field is right alongside the building, and then behind it the local community uses the parts of the site for storage of kayaks and rafts and other maritime equipment. And the shop buildings, they just surround the old ruins. So to conduct any form of repairs with the constraints posed by the surrounding buildings, it would be severely restrictive. Also, like the pier road, that would mean that the main road was going to be blocked. The beach, it's used for leisure activities. A lot of the young children, there's pico sailing, that's a big thing there. There's a public phone box, letterbox alongside, and on the pier then there's like the cook aquaculture that their main processing plant is in Mid-Yell, all the associated boats. There's shellfish boats, whelkfish boats, krill boats, and yachts and all that kind of thing, using the immediate vicinity. And just adjacent on the right-hand side, and there's sheltered housing, and you know, a lot of the residents will walk along the flat road, just stretching their legs, just to kind of keep themselves active. So that's very concerning. Like the level of activity that's in the immediate vicinity. It's not just like something that's in a field that folk would have no reason to go there. So that's that. And that's kind of pretty narrow, like the public road. The public road was built like years ago, like in Yell. Like they had to be mindful of the fact that the Roro ferries only started running to Yell in 77 or thereabouts, and the means of constructing a road to a good standard was maybe know what they'd be new. As well as that, like on the front of the property, there used to be a porch when it was in use, so if that was to be reinstated in accordance with the original plans, it would probably protrude halfway across the limited public road that's in front of the property. So it's kind of the constraints, everything around it, it poses kind of really challenging situation just to get anything done, just with the closeness into the building. But, I'll show you some other photos, if that's okay. That's like a photo just looking to the east, showing like the building. I think it's about the middle of somewhere about 2015. That picture was taken. It shows like the building, especially if you look along the top of the wall. It doesn't seem to be just anything kind of too concerning, although it was reported as being a bit of the plum. The next photo shows like the same angle, just taken last week, and it is shown it severely with the plum, like in the inside the building following the fire damage. There's a lot of failure of structure. There's stone that's in the building. It has cracks, like kind of from top to bottom, and it's when you see the building going well with a shape like this, and it's clear to the eye, and the cracks and that kind of thing inside. It's a very real, very concerning risk, and I had 3 children myself, and it's weighing heavily on me, the risk to folk that this is causing, and it's going to be a financial burden to take the building down, but at the same time, I'm not sidestepping the responsibilities of it, and just wanting to remove the risk. It clearly exists. The next photo was one that was taken in 2014, shows the east gable of the house, and that's reasonably intact on a sunny day, and the same photo is further damage and collapse of the same area. That's just happened in the last few months, so it's from a fair height, and you're getting a significant failure and weakening of the structure. It doesn't look very good to me, and it's really kind of, it's just clear as night and day that the building has fallen to pieces, and that's just imminent collapse that we're probably waiting on, and the rest to the public that goes with it. Yeah, so I think that's all, hopefully, if I was wanting to highlight, if that's okay. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Members, any questions for Mr. Lawrison or Mr. Douglas?
Me, please. Can I ask?
Convener?
Yeah. Can I ask? When did you last offer it for sale or to give it away to anybody? Did you get any interest at all? Was there any local groups, or did the Amenity Trust, Shetland Amenity Trust, show any interest, or was there just no interest at all?
So Yes, the L crafts, like they pursued like something, and they took it fairly far, and they were like a body that could tap into like reasonable parts given their status of funding, but that's kind of failed just by the costs affecting the repair. Like although it looks a big building, the actual size inside is remarkably small. That can just be the thick walls and that kind of thing. It's so it probably offers very little scope. Like I was kind of interested to see like Brock Lodge at the figure that was mooted for the restoration of that was 12 million, but you could see like a place that was like in its own location and that kind of thing, would be attractive to somebody maybe as a potential project, but for something that's totally surrounded by like shop buildings and that kind of thing, it kind of loses its magic a bit. And I kind of just drawing a comparison to, if I may, with a Gloop Pala up in Gloop, like that building was 50 metres from the boundary fence. Likewise, he'd suffered a fire, but that building was a higher listing status. That one was B, and, which is a good bit higher. There are not too many buildings like that, but that building wasn't remotely damaged as far and gone as out of shape as this one was. And you could probably argue it if it was left in its state in a remote field way up at the very extremities of Yell, maybe the risk to the public would have been a lot less. So this one is a lot lesser status. It has clearly been and evidently been offered to community groups, like the community council has been involved in it up in Yell, but and sadly the constraints of doing everything up in an island like that with the constraints of the site, that's nothing that's been able to be taken forward.
Thank you. And can I also ask, is it currently insured? Is there any kind of insurance on it at the moment?
Well, you can't get anything just with the condition of it. So that probably all falls onto me, and that's I have a young family that live in 13 and 15, and with the costs of living, that's I can assure you that's a thing that doesn't maybe sit too high up on our priorities in terms of need, but in terms of something that we have to do for protection to everybody, that's way high. I'm put it forward in a way that can to hopefully to protect everybody, and if it concerns the community council, that's expressed it. So that's a terrible concern. Just a risk at this poses.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions, members? Thank you very much, gentlemen. Members of the committee now have an opportunity to ask questions, seek clarification from council officers on any planning or legal issues. No questions, Councillor Wenger.
Yes, thank you very much. What would happen if, from the legal point of view, when we come to the result to say, okay, we are not supporting or the breaking down of the applicant, and then something breaks down and damage a car, a person, or whatever. Yeah, what is the legal situation then? Are we then in liability somehow as well, or?
Mr. Sutherland, could you assist us?
Yeah, sorry, I understand the question. Is there any liability on the council if, say, if the application was refused and the building collapsed and caused damage or injury to someone? I think that would be a very, very remote possibility that there would be any comeback against the council in that circumstances. It's a question of negligence and reasonable foreseeability. And as the planning officer has already pointed out, there are other statutory and mechanisms available relating to dangerous buildings and notices that can be served, and none of those things have come about in this situation. There doesn't appear to be any direct evidence of imminent danger. That would need to be established. It would need to be really clearly foreseeable and that it would be more likely than not to that damage and injury would result from leading directly from the council's decision before any liability would attach to the council. So I think that would be quite a remote possibility. That doesn't mean that the question of the safety position of the building is something that members ought to ignore. That's a separate question. The question of actual civil liability and a claim for damages is a more remote matter. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yes, thank you very much.
Can I ask one question, Mr. Sutherland, while you're there? I understand if this application is refused, that the Scottish ministers have to be approached to formalise that decision. Are there any financial implications for the council in that event?
I'm not aware of it. I don't think it's actually an appeal. It's a notification. Perhaps Mr. Holden is more familiar with the exact procedure.
Mr. Holden, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. In the event that the Planning Committee resolved to approve the proposal to demolish the building contrary to the officer's recommendation, we would have to then notify the Scottish ministers who then make the final decision. There's no financial implication to the council for that, as far as I'm aware.
Thank you, Mr. Sutherland and Mr. Holden. Any further questions, members?
Yeah, can I ask, please, given that this, in certain tides and wind conditions, then this area floods and the water actually reaches the front door of this property and therefore the foundations, we don't have a budget of any sort, do we, to do some sort of protective works along the front? There would be no sort of budget for that, or is there any kind of a budget that the applicant could get help from? Because obviously that's going to undermine the building as well as everything else.
Mr. Holden?
There are budgetary aspects to this. The council does receive, I believe, some funding. I'm not quite sure the origins of that or the scope for that. It's part of the flood risk management plans which we deal with, which come forward, which another part of the service handles, but any budgetary aspects would be pretty limited if there was any available. I don't consider this as an area which has been highlighted as being one for priority. I think it's the likes of Scalloway where these plans are in place and discussions are being taken part of.
Just had I've just had a moment. If you were applying, if they were actually applying to do anything to improve this, given that we have a certain height above low water mark or high water mark, and also we have a distance from the sea, would they actually get planning permission to do anything here? Because would this not be well within the range whereby you would actually refuse planning permission?
It would depend on the proposed reuse of the building. I think you're thinking of the likes of Copeland's Pier here. So it may not be acceptable for residential occupation if a proposal was to come forward because of the proximity to the sea and the need to prevent flood risk so that there's a means of escape, but it doesn't prevent ultimate reuse. And it all depends on design and use, and the planning officer did highlight that it's not necessarily a case for a complete replication of what was there previously. Historic Environment Scotland is not adverse to new proposals which just allow the historic interest to be identifiable, so that the way in which the area develops can be read and understood, which is what listing is about, really.
Thank you.
Any further questions, members? Before we move to debate and decision, can I ask the applicant and the agent, Mr Lawrenson and Mr Douglas, if they are satisfied that they've had an opportunity to present their case? Sorry, Mr Douglas, I just want the applicant and yourself to confirm that you've had the opportunity to present your case.
Can you come up to the microphone, please?
Yeah, are we allowed to say any more on the matter at all?
Yes, please.
Okay, I think that there's a couple of things here. Building standards were mentioned now. Building standards would only issue a dangerous buildings notice on a building if the building owner wasn't prepared to do anything with the building. In this instance, Mr Lawrenson is accepting his responsibilities and wants to make the building safe. As far as the structural report's concerned, there's been an extensive structural survey done on the building. It's been identified in the report that, according to the calculations that have been carried out and references to British standards, that the building will not stand given certain wind speeds. That's all contained within the structural report. So on paper, scientifically, when you carry out calculations, the building shouldn't be standing. If we have a strong wind, the building could come down, it might not, but science tells us it will. So apart from the science behind it, there's no other certainty that anybody can sit in this room and say that this building is safe and it will stand for any length of time. So, as I said earlier on, we're living on borrowed times here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Douglas. Decision. Who wants to kick off the debate? Convener.
Yeah. I think that everybody is always sad when something that's been there for all the days has to be removed, but I think in this instance I don't really think we have a great deal of choice other than to go against our officer's recommendations. I would suggest if the building wasn't listed, we wouldn't be sitting here, because they would be delighted that it was going to be demolished, and therefore the risk to anybody walking past or driving past would be removed. So I don't know if there's any point for debate, but I'm happy to make a motion if you wish.
Is there a seconder?
Yeah. Yeah, I would move that the applicant be allowed to demolish Linkshouse. Its proximity to the sea would hinder its use for a dwelling house. It's already been offered to local interest groups, and nobody has either the inclination or the wherewithal to take it on and develop it. Given the current financial state of the council and all the other funding bodies, it's highly unlikely that there would be any assistance available for either the applicant or anybody else to do anything. You can clearly see that it's well beyond economic repair or easy economic repair. You can also clearly see that it is in a very dangerous state. The lack of stone as lintels and would be in use as lintels, then the fire and the subsequent weather over the last 30 years has greatly deteriorated the lintels, and so it's really not so much if it falls down, it's a case of when it falls down. And so I would be happy to move that the applicant be allowed to demolish it.
Have we a seconder?
I'll second that, yeah.
Anyone otherwise minded? So in that case, I'm able to confirm that Mr Lawrenson will have permission to demolish the building, and we will overturn the recommendation of the officers. Mr Logan. I also confirm that we will notify, subject to notification to the ministers. In that case, there is no further business today. Thank you for your attendance, members, gentlemen. Thank you.